Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Paladin Financial Talk. I am Matt Bryant with Paladin Financial, and we have here with us today Mr. Tony Shore.
Woo! I'm excited.
This is
What's going on,
right.
though?
So,
Matt, come on.
For those of you out there listening to the podcast, we do encourage you to go to our website or our YouTube channel because we do record videos of this. And I am dressed as Cousin Eddie from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. So I've got
you look just like him.
I don't know about that. Hope not. Got the bathrobe, got the bomber cap, and I got my stogie here. So
fake cigar.
My fake cigar. So
yeah.
This series for this month, we're going to do, since it's the holiday season, we're going to do Christmas movies and financial lessons that we can pull from the Christmas movies. So
I think that's fantastic. Yeah. And you're starting with my all-time favorite Christmas movie, Christmas Vacation. And there are financial lessons in there.
There are. And, I've seen the movie, I don't know if I should admit this, but maybe 75 times. It's something we watch at least once a year, if not multiple times.
Oh yeah, I've seen it multiple times too. I'm probably right up there with you.
Yep. And we just introduced our 11-year-old to it, but the unedited version. So we had to make sure, don't be repeating some of the things you hear in here. But he got a kick out of it. So we watched it on Thanksgiving. So that's usually when we pull it out and start watching it. But I never really considered any financial lessons from it. So when I actually went back and started thinking about it, there's actually quite a few financial lessons, things that we talk about on a regular basis with our clients. So we thought, let's do a whole series of this. Ellie is doing Home Alone next week.
Oh, I can't wait.
Jeff Foley is going to do The Grinch. And then Jeff Quick, I think, is doing Elf. So,
okay.
Got a whole series.
Okay. I think Jeff Quick should have done The Grinch. I'm just
connection.
Little typecasting there. No, I'm kidding. I have to give Jeff Quick a hard time.
Oh, yeah.
But that's awesome. And we're going to have fun with this one today. Yep. So where do you want to begin? What's the first? I can't believe there are financial lessons in Christmas Vacation. I know of at least one, but where do you want to begin?
So when I proposed, we were brainstorming on what to do for a podcast series at the end of the year. And I proposed this, and I usually don't have good ideas, but everybody thought, oh, this will be fun. And then we were talking like, well, what are the actual financial lessons in these movies? And it turns out I have 8 or 10 of them that came from Christmas Vacation. The first one is the big one, right? So Clark, movie begins, he's talking with one of his coworkers, and he asked the coworker if he got his Christmas bonus, hand delivered check, basically. And Clark hadn't received his, and so he was getting concerned. The concern was he went and put a down payment on a swimming pool so that once the ground thawed, they could begin the installation of the swimming pool. So something like $7,500 he wrote a check for. Didn't run this by his wife, didn't have the actual bonus in hand. And it turns out the bonus that they got was a subscription into the Jelly of the Month Club, which.
Well, actually, we have a clip.
Let's go ahead and play the clip.
Let's listen to the clip.
What is it?
It's a 1-year membership in the Jelly of the Month Club.
Oh, good.
Clark, that's the gift that keeps on giving the whole year.
That it is, Edward. That it is indeed.
And you gotta love Cousin Eddie.
Eddie, trying to look on the bright side there.
And we'll talk about his situation in a minute, but for someone who is constantly kind of facing obstacles, he's a very optimistic gentleman. So
he really is.
The Jelly of the Month Club subscription was not what Clark was expecting.
He was expecting a lot of money.
He was expecting a substantial amount of money, and unbeknownst to him and every other employee at this firm, Mr. Shirley decided to cut Christmas bonuses for the year. So Clark is finding out basically on Christmas Eve that there's not going to be a bonus. And the key, I think, is he's spending money that he didn't actually have. And so when we talk about saving for goals, whether they're short-term like a swimming pool or long-term like retirement, you don't want to count on money that isn't in hand, right?
Yeah, he even says in the movie, I didn't have enough in our account.
Yeah.
I don't have quite enough in our account to cover the check that I wrote.
Yeah.
I was counting on this bonus. So he didn't have a proper emergency fund saved up. And that's what you're always talking about, right?
Yep. Having an emergency fund. Don't count on, like, when we sit down and we meet with people, a lot of them will expect to get some sort of inheritance. That's a big one that comes up. We never factor that into our financial planning, though, because a lot can change. Maybe they're inheriting the money from parents, and the parents have a medical event or live long enough to where they actually use all the money
for long-term care.
Yeah, which we've talked about before, can quickly erode any inheritance out there.
True.
And then maybe something changes and you're disinherited, whatever it may be. If we can plan with make the plan work without the inheritance, and then the inheritance comes later, it's just a bonus. But we don't want to expect that to come if it's an uncertainty. So that's a big one. Not writing checks that you can't cover. And then as far as inheritances, like going towards the state of Minnesota, it's common up here where people inherit the family cabin. Well, sometimes things that you inherit come with extra costs. And do you have the liquid money sitting around to pay for the upkeep, to pay for the taxes and the insurance?
Inheritances can be a financial burden, ironically. Yeah.
And, they want to keep the cabin in the family and pass it down from generation to generation. But without proper planning and having the emergency fund, like you talked about, you could be in big trouble.
Yeah.
So that's the big one, is don't write checks that you can't cover.
Yeah. That's a big financial lesson. I really like that one. So, what else can we learn from this? I'm going to have a little sip of egg.
There we go.
Though, will we?
Alyssa in our office came through with some Christmas vacation props. We got some ornaments, and
I actually have a set of these at home.
Do you really? I have never seen those before.
I have a couple of those the moose eggnog mugs.
We don't have any eggnog upstairs, but
I wish we did have
should have put some milk in there or something. But another one is, if your income is your number one asset, which for a lot of people it is, what are you doing to actually protect it?
Sure.
And they never come out and say it explicitly in the movie, but it appears that the Griswolds are a one income family. We don't know if Ellen works or not, but even if, assuming she does, then they have two incomes, but he's at least half of it. If not a single income family, he's a bit careless, as we saw in the movie. He's up there putting up Christmas lights on a 20-foot ladder and
on a steep roof.
Falls a couple times. If he's hurt and can't work, like, what does this family do?
Plus, he has a few $1,000s worth of Christmas lights on his house.
Imported, fancy Italian. Imported. So he falls off the ladder, or falls off the roof, lands in the bushes, falls and hits a tree off the ladder. Like, what if that happens in real life all the time? Maybe not to the same extent of Clark Griswold, but if you are primary or substantial portion of the family income and you can't work, like, are you covered? Most employers will offer disability. Most times, though, it's up to the employee to sign up for it and make sure they're paying for it. You can also get policies outside of your employer, but just think, if you are supporting a family and you can't work, where's that income coming from?
Yeah.
So
that's a scary prospect. So you need to have that as part of your financial plan then, correct?
Look at disability insurance. It's not very expensive. And also life insurance. Like, what if Clark falls off the roof, breaks his neck, dies? What does the family do then? So making sure you have coverage.
Well, let's not get morbid. It was a comedy. Come on.
I'm twisting it here, but so that's something to consider too. Is like,
sure,
what are you going to do with the single?
Yeah, nobody likes to think about it, but you need to prepare.
Yeah,
plan for the best, prepare for the worst.
Yep, and it doesn't have to be expensive life insurance. There's things you can do to get by.
Oh yeah,
and make sure you're covered. So that's a big one. And then also, that's protecting Clark and the income there, but also protecting your assets. Their house gets absolutely destroyed during the movie, whether it's the SWAT team coming in, the Christmas tree breaking out the windows, Uncle Lewis starting a fire in the Christmas tree, in the living room, the squirrel getting loose. Anyway, these, obviously it's a comedy and it's more dramatic than real life, but do you have proper coverage for your home?
Right.
And then do you have umbrella policy? Because when Clark falls off the roof, we remember that a I don't know what you call it, a piece of ice flies through the neighbor's window and destroys the stereo system.
Right.
Why is the carpet all wet, Todd?
And that was a nice stereo system back in the 80s.
Yeah.
That was an imported Bang & Olufsen, by the way, stereo.
There you go.
Yeah.
So are you covered for things like that? For example, we have a swimming pool, and there's a lot of liability that goes with that. So
sure.
For not much money, you can get an umbrella policy, just making sure you're covered.
And he's going to need that policy when he puts in the pool.
Yeah. He'll need to update his homeowner's insurance. There's a lot of things he needs to do that Clark isn't always the one thinking too far down the road.
No, he isn't.
The next one gets into Aunt Bethany and Uncle Lewis.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's something that we've touched on in the past with like Medicare and Medicaid and conversations there, but the risk of outliving your money and having your health decline in your later years. So Aunt Bethany has some memory issues.
Yeah.
Aunt Bethany gifted her cat.
She wrapped up her own cat.
She wrapped up her cat. And she wrapped up her Jell-O mold, which I don't think was meant as a gift, but her memory is not quite there. So what are you doing to prepare yourself to make sure that you don't outlive your money? And Ellen points out to us that she picks things from around the house and wraps them up because they don't have enough money to go out and buy gifts. So she still wants to give, doesn't have money. Therefore, the cat gets wrapped up and delivered to the family. So just covering yourself as far as that goes, making sure you can do whatever you can to not outlive your money.
Yeah, and I guess Christmas Vacation in that sense is somewhat of a tragedy also because in addition to a comedy, because the cat doesn't make it.
No.
The cat does not survive the movie, unfortunately.
No, neither does the chair.
Neither does the chair, although Cousin Eddie is thinking about taking it with him.
It gets repurposed, reduce, reuse,
you
recycle.
Could fumigate that.
So, the cat doesn't wind up making it home with Aunt Bethany, unfortunately. So,
it is somewhat a scary Christmas. I mean, I've got another. How about that? I mean,
hallelujah! Where's the Tylenol?
It is. It's a very stressful time for Clark.
Oh yeah.
And Ellen points out to him like, "Hey, we didn't have to invite all these people here. Like, are you sure you want to go through this?" It's always Clark's dream to have the big family gathering.
Sure.
He compounds it by spending that money that he doesn't actually have. That was a big part of it. But if you have a problem and want help, remain calm. Right. Don't yell at your spouse. That's not going to help things.
Right. And this wasn't good either.
It's over.
Not according to Santa's watch, it isn't.
Now, come on, son.
Stay out of this, Dad.
Clark, I think it's best if everyone just goes home before things get worse.
Worse? How could they get any worse? Take a look around you, Ellen. We're at the threshold of hell.
See, that's not good.
No, it ruins Christmas.
Yeah, you don't want to let your emotions get carried away.
No, and they've got some long-term financial issues that they're going to have to address after Christmas.
They do, yes.
But stay calm. It's also where having a financial advisor in your corner is a big help, because when you're going through crisis, maybe you lost your job, a big health diagnosis, stock market doesn't go up forever. At some point it pulls back, and it can pull back pretty dramatically. Like, who is in your corner to provide clear-minded, level-headed thinking and take the emotion out of everything?
Right.
So working with an advisor, we see it all the time. People call us weekly where someone has gotten sick or cancer or lost their job, or stock market has a bad month or quarter or year. Like, they reach out to us because we're the ones that can help navigate that and help everybody remain calm. And you don't want to make emotional decisions, because those ones are typically bad decisions.
Yeah. And that's where you come in as a financial advisor and a financial services professional. You and the Paladin team there is because you take the emotions out of it for your clients. They might get emotional about their investments or about their money or about other things. And you're kind of an outside third party that can sit them down and say, hey, this is where you're at. In order to meet your goals, this is probably the best thing for you right now. And,
and those things that are happening to these people, it's probably the only time it's going to happen to them, but we deal with it all the time.
Yeah. Like I say, I'm only going to retire once,
right?
But you, as a financial services professional and the Paladin team, you guys do this every day. You're doing it all the time for all your clients. So you've gone through this retirement process a lot, and that's what you do.
That's what we do. And we see the adversity that comes up because you have a plan. At some point, though, there's adversity. And how do you handle that? That's the key. So you want to have somebody in your corner to help you out with that. This kind of same vein, but don't insult your in-laws over their financial decisions. So if you call back to standing on the front lawn and the lights don't come on, and the mother-in-law says, I hope you kids see what a terrible waste of money this is. Like, if you got something to say or want to provide some unsolicited advice, do it in private. Don't do it in front of somebody's kids.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that's not helpful.
Yeah. That's save the tough talk about finances and other things, not in front of everyone. No. And don't insult the in-laws.
Don't insult the in-laws.
I mean, Clark does his fair share.
Oh yeah. He's not innocent.
Yeah.
Cousin Eddie.
Or Art. The little lights aren't twinkling, Clark.
Yes.
I know that, Art, and thanks for noticing.
Yes, exactly.
Thanks for noticing.
Keep your mouth shut sometimes. So we hit on this one a little bit, having a well-funded emergency fund for, like, this movie is one bad surprise after another.
Oh yeah.
So just have the emergency fund. That takes the stress out of all this. Don't spend the money that you don't have. That's definitely a part of it. And then Cousin Eddie shows up with his tenement on wheels.
Yeah, Cousin Eddie. Wait, I've got a good one for that. I've got a great one for Cousin Eddie. Here we go.
You surprised? Surprised, Eddie? If I woke up tomorrow with my head sewn to the carpet, I wouldn't be more surprised than I am right now.
Okay. Yeah, and then another Cousin Eddie.
I don't know if I ought to go sailing down no hill with nothing between the ground and my brain but a piece of government plastic.
You really think it matters, Eddie?
You really think it matters, Eddie?
And Eddie, great spirit.
Yeah.
Always positive.
Yeah.
Doesn't quite have his life together.
No.
Had to trade or sell his property because the live bait industry wasn't going very well.
He got into the live bait industry. You mean that wasn't a good idea?
So I didn't quite think that through. I doubt he had a business plan as far as that goes. So that, and lost the house.
Yeah.
They're living in the RV. He surprises Clark by not only showing up, but saying, hey, we're going to stay here for a month. Like, those are big surprises, big financial ones. And
oh, yeah. If I was any more surprised, I'd wake up with my head sewn to the carpet. Yes. I don't think I'd be more surprised if I did.
Exactly. And they can't provide anything for their kids for Christmas.
That's really sad.
It is sad, but it happens all the time. And
they hit up Clark for that.
They hit up Clark.
They drive Clark nuts. In fact, at one point, here's what Clark says to Eddie.
Can I refill your eggnog for you? Get you something to eat? Drive you out to the middle of nowhere? Leave you for dead?
No, I'm doing just fine, Clark.
And he's so positive. Just lets it slide right over.
Yeah, and I like when he gives Clark the Christmas list. He says, if there's enough left over, I'd like to get something for you too. Like, Clark's buying his own gift. But anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, Eddie's situation is not one that anybody wants to be in.
No.
Clark's in a vastly different situation, but he's making his own fair share of
financial mistakes, yeah.
Terrible ones. So that goes back to planning. Don't go into a business that you don't know anything about, and then you lose your home because of it, right? There's ways to protect yourself there.
Right.
And then don't feel the pressure to keep up with the Joneses. Like the neighbors, they don't have any kids. Todd and Margot, they've got a lot of nice, fancy stuff, but don't aspire to be like them just because they have nice things. Like, worry about yourself and what you're doing to put yourself in a solid financial position.
I did covet that Bang & Olufsen stereo back in the day. They show it briefly. It's flat, the tinted glass that lifts up. Those were nice.
Yeah, you can daydream about it, but you can go out and buy one.
No, not a good use of money if you don't have it, especially.
Right. Yep. And then it's common these days, I suppose, where it's all about consumerism and spending and whatnot, and everybody's focused on what they're going to get and money and whatnot. But it's not about spending top dollar on the gifts. Like, what are you doing to give back? And eventually the message comes through, and it ends well. But it's a resource. Money is a resource, allows us to live and do things that we want to do, but it shouldn't be the end all be all for how you run your life.
Yeah.
So those are a few lessons from my favorite Christmas movie.
My favorite as well of all time. My favorite Christmas movie of all time. And you and I were just listening to some of the clips.
Oh yeah,
thinking about maybe playing a few during the show, and I mean, we were laughing hard.
Yes, it's
just at hearing. I mean, and you've already seen it this season. I saw part of it on TV, and you just listen through some of the clips, and you cannot not laugh.
No, and
it's so funny.
When we came up with the idea upstairs, people were just throwing quotes out left and right.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like one of the most quotable movies out there.
It is. I'm trying to think of another good one here.
Can't believe you're actually standing here in my living room, Eddie. Never thought the day would come.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too.
Talk about misreading the situation.
yeah, I'm excited about it too.
So it's at first, admittedly, when we came up with this idea, I wasn't sure there'd be enough to fill a show, much less a month of shows. But it turns out there's quite a bit here once you start looking through it, and their topics and the type of people have those issues daily. And those are the ones we work with.
Well, when you first told me you were going to do this like a week ago, I thought you meant you were doing one show about financial lessons you could learn from various Christmas movies. So I thought, okay, he's going to have Christmas Vacation, Home Alone, maybe Christmas Story, the classic crowd, It's a Wonderful Life, and just pull from each of those, or Elf or whatever, and work that into one show. But you actually, the great material, you're doing a show on each movie, and I think it's fantastic, and it's going to be fun. I mean, I can't wait to see what you come up with for Elf, and which is another classic, and some of the other Christmas movies.
Yeah, and they're all entertaining and funny. But yeah, there's actually some real life examples.
Well, sure. I mean, you can, and even in, Clark Griswold, that character is like, he's pretty much the character we talk about on every show when we say, don't do this. You don't want to end up in this situation. I mean, he does it all.
And, that character is recurring in several movies, and it's just a bunch of buffoonery and
it's fun.
It is fun. And he comes out the end just fine. But these are things we see on a regular basis. Maybe not these exact circumstances, but the concepts are there, and that's what the planning comes in for. Making
the little lights aren't twinkling, Clark.
That's right.
I love that. Well, great show today.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was fun hanging out with you, Matt, or Cousin Eddie, as
Cousin
I should
Eddie,
say.
Right?
People who might just tune in and maybe they have their volume is set low. They're going to be like, "Wait, is this a financial show?
Right.
Am I going to get financial tips and advice on the show today? Why is Cousin Eddie there?"
Yeah.
And you brought some props.
And then I also let off. Cousin Eddie is from Kansas.
Yes.
The RV has plates from Kansas, and so Coolidge, Kansas, I believe we find out in some of the other movies.
Yes, Coolidge.
So I'm from Kansas, and didn't see a lot of Cousin Eddies running around, but
they're out there. There's a couple over in Wisconsin too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
No, they're all over. All right. Well, hey, that's awesome. And listeners and viewers out there, that does it for today's fun episode of Paladin Financial Talk with our host, Matt Bryant.